Today, we will be reporting on one of the most controversial and popular industries in the world, human trafficking. There are many different types, such as the sexual exploitation of women and children, forced labor, and human organs. Today, we will be covering these issues in the states of India, China, Mexico, Brazil, United States, Mongolia, Russia, and Afghanistan, even though it's seen all over the world. Okay. How many people do you think live in India?
Maybe 1 million.
That's incorrect. It's 1 billion, but nice try. Did you know that India is the most dangerous place in the world to sell a woman or child to? It is one of the most diverse countries in the world, and it has over 1 billion inhabitants, as we asked the young lady. Can you please tell me what it would be like to work 18 hours a day, scrubbing pots and cleaning rooms, and dying of starvation?
I think that is disgusting, and it would be like a living hell, and the people who do it are they make me really nauseous. I can't talk about it.
Audrey, they're forced. How many prostitutes do you think are in India?
2 million?
That's wrong. It's 3 million. The slave industry is also prominent in poorer, less modern countries like India. It is among one of the highest sources of illegal income around the world. 3 million prostitutes are in India, and about 40% of them are under 18, and almost all of them were forced into it. These women not only carry or receive diseases such as HIV/AIDS, hepatitis C, blood pathogen, but they must also deal with the psychological impact. More than 1 million women are trafficked in India each year due to the fact that there are no actual consequences against the traffickers. India, closely over China, is home to more people than it can hold. Due to the strict one-child policy, more families are turning towards the human trafficking industry. China is a destination and transit country with over 150 million victims of human trafficking. China is so popular for human trafficking is due to migration and forced marriages. More than 600,000 people migrate to China per year. The male-to-female ratio is affecting the country in enormous ways. With a 118 to 100 male-to-female ratio, women are sold to the man with the highest bid. Thousands of people from around the world are sold into China to perform forced labor. People work all day in brick factories, coal mines, and factories without pay, in horrible conditions, and under no government supervision. The Chinese government has improved its laws and has created programs to help these victims, but still fails to provide protection to those who escape and survive the industry.
Many Russian women become slaves of human trafficking by seeking work overseas due to lack of economic opportunities in Russia.
In the Russian industry for human trafficking, how much do you think a person makes for selling a woman?
Around $5.
20,000.
Russia has been placed on the Tier 2 watch list for 9 years in a row due to the fact that the government does not do enough to eliminate human trafficking. Also due to the fact that they show no signs of increasing these efforts. In Afghanistan, women are forced into prostitution by their own families. Family members are often poor and addicted to drugs and see the women as an opportunity to make money.
Hi, and welcome to a human trafficking update. Today we have reports on the increase of human trafficking in Mexico. Many victims of human trafficking in Mexico are tricked into the trade. They are coerced by older men to join them and do services for them or for other men for very low prices. They are taken from neighborhoods, from their own neighborhoods, and brought to neighborhoods that are very high in prostitution. Girls suffering from human trafficking are often kept under conditions that require them to live very secretive lives. They are forced to live in hotel rooms and have sex with many men, up to 40 a day for about $15 a day. These men pay another man, which is the pimp. The first federal law for human trafficking in Mexico was passed in 2012. This 2012 law calls for all perpetrators to serve up to a 40-year sentence in prison. Any sex work involving girls under the age of 18 is considered human trafficking. Prostitution is permitted in some areas of Mexico, which are called the red light zones. Many of those are very close to the U.S. border. Worldwide, the trafficking industry makes about $32 billion a year. And because of the advancement in the drug cartels worldwide, these trafficking rings have been joined forces with cartels, and now they are both trafficking humans in a very explicit way. Those who don't join forces with cartels ultimately cannot survive. An anti-trafficking movement has pursued since May, and because of this movement, over 86 hotels have been raided, as well as bars and massage parlors. 118 women have been freed from the trafficking rings, and 62 alleged traffickers have been taken into custody and charged with their issues. Cartels are in control of Mexico and the smuggling system that allows them to transport the ones being trafficked. So this allows the cartels to not only take the money from where they're going, but also to transport the victims. Some women are kidnapped from other countries and brought to Mexico. There was a woman recently from El Salvador who was taken from her home and brought to Mexico. She was forced to be raped, and not only that, she was forced to cook and clean bloody clothes and machetes, and luckily she was able to escape that after being released by her kidnapper. But many other women aren't that fortunate and do end up dying and are murdered, basically. People are revolting against the human trafficking cause and the cartel's terror tactics of rape. These victims, their families, and other enraged Mexicans are no longer going to tolerate this terrible behavior. And the way they see it is men coming into women's houses, taking the women, are saying, bathe your daughter and then give her to me, and they don't return her till she's pregnant. And many don't agree with that, so they are taking a stand against it. Did you know that Brazil's inclusion of the world of human trafficking went highly unnoticed for a very long time? Many did not, because it did go highly unnoticed. And it gradually became more and more popular. In 1995, the Brazilian government began the process of eliminating human trafficking and slave labor, and has since then recovered 44,000 people from these conditions. Because of the World Cup and the Summer Olympic Games being held in Brazil within the next few years, forced slave labor has become more and more frequent. Hi, do you want to hear about Brazilian trafficking?
I guess.
So, did you know that in the week of March 31st to April 6th in 2013, there was a huge human trafficking ring discovered in Zambabia, a small suburb in the capital of Brasilia?
I did not know that.
Did you know that over 80 Bengali workers were discovered in that ring?
That's horrible.
Do you have any further thoughts on this?
This should be stopped. People need to know about this.
As you can see, human trafficking is a huge issue in Brazil.
Yeah.
Investigations are rising in the slave labor and human trafficking, and are focusing on cedar textile production. 50 sewing workshops in Sao Paulo have been shut down for slave labor conditions in which they have their employees work. They work for 16 hours a day and receive terrible, terrible conditions and are starved, basically. Some customers who use these companies include Zara, Gap, and Gregory, as well as some well-known Brazilian companies. If slave-like labor is forced on employees, firms who allow their workers to work in these conditions will ultimately lose their operating licenses for up to 10 years. Authorities will be capable of repossessing their property if they allow slave labor to occur.
The government of Mongolia made limited efforts to protect the victims of trafficking during this year. The government did not employ systematic procedures for the proactive identification of trafficking victims. Though authorities reported identifying 56 victims of forced prostitution and no forced labor victims during the reporting period. 2 NGOs funded largely by foreign donors and given the equivalent of approximately $5,000 to $8,000 by the Mongolian government, provided the country's only protective services for trafficking victims, both male and female. Hi, I have a question for you. Would you like to answer me?
Of course, thank you.
Where do you think that Mongolians are most likely to be caught up in human trafficking?
Well, I would have to say clubs.
You must have cheated, because you are correct. They're most likely to be human trafficked in clubs, bars, nightclubs, and massage parlors. Anything to say about that?
That's crazy.
Right? Did you know that it is estimated that there are over 100,000 children in America involved in the sex slave ring? Victims of human trafficking in the United States include U.S. citizens, foreigners, adults and minors, men and women as well. Foreign-born victims in the U.S. may be either documented or undocumented. Because human trafficking is considered to be one of the fastest-growing criminal industries, the United States government and academic researchers are currently working on an up-to-date estimate of the total number of trafficked persons in the United States annually. With 100,000 children estimated to be in the sex trade in the United States each year, it is clear that the total number of human trafficking victims in the United States reaches into the hundreds of thousands. Here I am with an actual girl who was involved in the human trafficking ring. Do you want to ask you a few questions?
Sure.
Okay, so what was it like for you growing up involved in human trafficking?
It was really hard. I got taken at a young age, and it was just really hard because I was not ready for such things.
I can't imagine anybody being ready for human trafficking. It's obviously a really horrible thing. What have you done since ending your human trafficking?
I've been advocating for young women in this situation, and I would like them to know that it will end one day, and you will be okay.
Thank you.